Wasserman Schultz from South Florida and Congressman Tim Kennedy from Buffalo, New York. Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz is a lead appropriator in the United States Congress, a longtime leader for emergency management. Unfortunately has all too much experience with hurricanes from South Florida. And Congressman Kennedy is the lead Democrat on the Homeland Security Committee. And we were here today to listen to our neighbors as we approach the anniversaries of Hurricanes Helene and Milton, especially to hear their views on the administration's proposal to eliminate FEMA and what that would mean to neighbors across the Tampa Bay area and across the country. So I'm going to turn first to Congressman Kennedy to summarize what he heard.
Thank you very much. First of all, it's an honor to be here in the Tampa Bay community. I want to thank Representative Kathy Castor for the invitation to come and see the really devastating aftermath of these catastrophic weather events and hurricanes, the tornadoes that spilled off from them, and the folks in the community that have been so resilient and inspiring in picking up the pieces of their lives, coming together as a community and restoring their lives. And in instances like this, people need assistance when they need it the most, and it's up to the federal government to respond in an appropriate manner, and that ensures that FEMA is there when people need it. So as the ranking member of the Subcommittee on Emergency Management and Technology, part of the Homeland Security Committee, working with Representative Castor, working with a real superstar in Congress in Debbie Wasserman Schultz, we've been closely monitoring the situation, working to listen to the people today to follow along on what still needs to be done from a congressional level, a legislative level, and certainly an administrative level. Getting rid of and eliminating FEMA is not what to do. We have to make sure that that agency not only exists, but it's run properly and it works. So we'll go back to Washington, listen to the people of the Tampa Bay region, and put in place reforms that will make sure that in the future, people can restore their lives in a much faster pace. And I really thank Congresswoman Castor for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You know, I want to thank Congresswoman Castor for doing the remarkable job that is required when your community gets a double whammy like hers has had here in Tampa Bay region after Milton and Helene. We've experienced that in my tenure in Congress in South Florida. And, you know, unfortunately, we as Floridians, we are weather seasoned, we have weather seasoned resilience. That resilience, which we heard from today, thanks to the roundtable discussion and community leadership that Congresswoman Castor put together, made it very clear. Look, we know what we need to do. We know how to organize here for our people, but there is no way that we could go it alone in the aftermath of a storm. Each and every person we heard from today made it clear that they need a clear rule book, a set of guideposts that require reform for FEMA, because the constant drumbeat of denials when people who should otherwise be qualified for reimbursement and for assistance, whether it's rental assistance or making sure that they can invest in the resilience necessary to elevate their homes, for example. Those are reasonable expectations that FEMA reform requires. But even a state like Florida, which has had very significant, robust experience in terms of being able to be prepared in the onset of a storm and in the aftermath, there's no chance that this state or any state could deal with the emergency response necessary without the federal funding flowing from FEMA, from an agency which, quite frankly, our colleague Jared Moskowitz from Florida just passed out of committee legislation to pull FEMA out of the Department of Homeland Security, establish it as a separate agency with a cabinet-confirmed leader so that you can have an agency that is more nimble and robust and able to be responsive. I have to tell you in conclusion that I have never had less confidence or been more concerned about FEMA in my entire 11-term career. And it is disturbing that it's an agency led by someone who has no emergency management experience. It is disturbing that they've got 2,000 FEMA professionals who are gone. And we're in the middle of hurricane season with Gabriella looming on the horizon. So we're here to make sure that we sound the alarm bell and that we help Congress focus on getting the reforms accomplished that are necessary, and as an appropriator, make sure that the resources that FEMA needs are provided. Thank you, Congressman Castor.
So here we are approaching the 1-year anniversary of Hurricanes Helene and Milton. People are still repairing their lives, repairing their homes, repairing their businesses. But unfortunately, they're grappling with added anxiety too, because no one is confident that under the Trump administration, FEMA is in a position to handle a catastrophe like we went through last year, or what happened in Texas with the tragic floods. Just last week, employees of FEMA sent a letter out to the public to say that they are also fearful that FEMA has been doged, that people have been fired unnecessarily, funding has been withheld, the leadership, no one has confidence in the leadership of FEMA. So that's their way of raising a red flag, waving a red flag to say, Congress, administration, public, pay attention to this. We know that thousands of people who work for FEMA are no longer there over the past year. We know that the Trump administration has canceled grants to local communities, including about $200 million that was supposed to come to the state of Florida to help us prepare for the next hurricane, to help communities and homeowners be more resilient so they can withstand the costly flooding. So what we heard today from Mayor Ken Welch of St. Petersburg, emergency management leaders from Tampa, St. Pete, and people who have lived through Helene and Milton and are still trying to rebuild their lives is they want a FEMA that works. They don't want the Trump administration to eliminate FEMA and to try to pass all of the burden on to local communities. They want a FEMA that is investing up front to help reduce the cost of disasters through resilience grants. They want an administration that actually follows the science. We need to understand, as these extreme events become more frequent and severe, where the flooding is going to happen, so that we can invest in our water systems, our wastewater systems, our infrastructure, so that they're not damaged and destroyed when a catastrophic event comes across. We also heard from homeowners that they want less bureaucracy, and they deserve it. There is too much red tape when it comes to trying to get your long-term housing assistance or financial assistance, or applying for grants that you need to elevate your homes. We heard that yes, during extreme events, they are locally managed, they are locally led, state managed, and federally supported. That means federally supported. That means federally supported. That doesn't mean that you're on your own. And that's what people feel like. They're fearful that they're going to be abandoned, and the supplies and help will not be available. And we're here to say we're going to fight for you. We heard them loud and clear. We're going to fight to make sure that emergency response and preparation stays strong. Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
So I'm going to ask you a question, but please look that way. I know it's going to be very awkward. Obviously, there is a lot of cuts going on with FEMA and everything, and you're going to have to use bipartisan support to beef this up. Do you have confidence that both sides can come together and maybe find some middle ground?
Well, as Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz relayed, that there is a bipartisan reform bill that it is passed out of committee. It was very bipartisan.